Hello students, welcome back to my channel. We are learning the lesson data structure and in data structure we are learning about arrays. So we have seen till now one-dimensional array, the various operations we perform on those one-dimensional arrays. So totally 6 algorithm we have learned till now, isn't it? So today we are going to learn about two-dimensional array, and with the today's session we are going to end this array part, okay? From the coming session we are going to learn about stacks, okay? So let's go ahead and see what is a two-dimensional array. Now a two-dimensional array is a collection of elements and each element is identified by a pair of indices called as subscript. This type of a subscript we have already seen in one-dimensional array also, isn't it? So even in two-dimensional array, we are going to access or address the data items with the help of subscripts, right? Now, the elements are stored in contiguous memory location, okay? So even in the two-dimensional also, they are stored in a contiguous memory location. We logically represent the elements of two-dimensional array as rows and columns, okay? So with one-dimensional array, we know that we used to represent them something like this, isn't it? Now, the two-dimensional arrays, we are going to logically represent them something like this. So we are going to have rows and we are going to have columns, okay? So as you can see, there is only one direction here, but we have here two dimensions, isn't it? That's why this is called as a two-dimensional array. Now, if a two-dimensional array has m rows, means if I have m number of rows here and n columns, which means I have n number of columns here, then the elements are accessed using the indices I and j. So now I want to access these indices, isn't it? These places if I want to access, so I'm going to use the indexes or subscripts I and j, okay? Where I is greater than 0 but less than m. So I is nothing but it is going to represent our row value, okay? So it should be always greater than or equal to 0. It can be equal to 0 because remember subscript always starts with 0, okay? And this should be less than or equal to m minus 1, not m minus 1. Similarly, our n should be greater than or equal to 0 and it should be, our j should be greater than or equal to 0 and it should be less than or equal to n, where n minus 1, where our n is nothing but number of columns, okay? I hope you're understanding this. Let me explain this once again. Suppose this is my two-dimensional array. M nothing but number of rows, in this case it is 2, okay, and n is nothing but number of columns, in this case it is 2 again, okay. So suppose I want to access this particular element. So for a row I am going to mention I as an indices, and for column I am going to represent j as a indices. So in this case, see the subscript is 0 and 1 and here the subscript is 0 and 1. So this is going to be I is nothing but 0, okay? So 0 comma 0, which is nothing but my this particular area. So here I value is 0 and j value is 0. So this I value, whatever we are saying, it should be always greater than or equal to 0 and should be less than or equal to m minus 1. Okay, why m minus 1? Because our index is starting from, our subscript is starting from 0, isn't it? So here also the j value should be greater than or equal to 0 and it should be less than or equal to n minus 1. So that is what this particular line means. Now, the expression A of ij represent an element present at ith row and jth column. Suppose A is the name of this particular array. Then I am saying A of j comma I. So the example whatever I gave you already, suppose this is 0 comma 0. So it is saying that 0th row, okay, and 0th column. So whenever you see in a two-dimensional array, suppose the array name is S, and if you see 1 comma 3, this is nothing but whatever the first subscript is there, this is my row value. So it is the first row and this is nothing but my column value. Always remember, okay, this is column and this is row. So always row comes first and then the column. So this is in the first row, third, column. Okay, so this particular entire thing is representing a element of the array S, which is in the first row and it is in the third column. I hope this is clear. So next, see this example here. The number of rows and columns in a matrix is called as the order of the matrix and denoted as m into n. Now, what is this matrix? You would have learned matrix in mathematics, isn't it? Usually we represent, suppose the value of a matrix is all 1, then if it is a 2 into 2 means this is nothing but row, this is nothing but a column in matrix. So I am saying that I have a matrix whose suppose the values are like this. So this is my matrix, isn't it? It has 2 rows and it has 2 columns. The order of the matrix is represented as how? 2 into 2, where 2 is the row value and 2 is the column value. Similarly, that is what they are saying. The number of rows and columns in a matrix is called as the order of the matrix and it is denoted as this. Okay, here m is the row value and n is the column value. Similarly, we are going to represent our two-dimensional array also. Now, let's take this example. Okay, so in this matrix, this is a matrix representation of the array. This is an array whose name is A and we are putting the values here. Now, see here, the row values are starting from 0th row, first row, second row, and the column value is also starting from 0th column, first column, second column, and we have put the values here. Now, how do we find out the total number of elements in a given two-dimensional array? Suppose I know that I have a two-dimensional array S whose number of columns is 3 and the number of rows is 3, then I can directly say that the total number of elements should be 9, isn't it? So if it is S of 2, 2, I know that the total number of elements from this particular array is nothing but 2 into 2, which is nothing but 4, right? So that is what is happening here. The total number of elements in this particular array, two-dimensional array, is number of rows into number of columns, which is nothing but 3 into 3. That's why I'm getting 9. This is how we are going to find out the total number of elements in a given two-dimensional array. Okay, so you will see matrix, the name matrix very often in this, because especially these two-dimensional arrays are very useful to represent this particular form. Okay, so in mathematics, if we are doing some programs where we are doing multiplication of matrix, addition of two matrices, then we always use the two-dimensional array. They are very useful, especially in this particular scenario, right? Now, how do we represent the two-dimensional array in the memory? We know that logically we represent them something like this, but can we represent them something like this in the memory also? No, isn't it? We know that for a one-dimensional array, we need a contiguous memory location. Similarly, in the two-dimensional array also, we need contiguous memory location. Okay, so how many memory location do we need? Like I said, suppose A is the array of order m into n. If there are m rows and n columns, to store m into n numbers, the total elements in the array is going to be how many? M into n, isn't it? If there are 2 rows and 3 columns in a given array, then the total number of elements in that array is going to be 6, right? This we saw just now. So to store m into n number of elements, we need m into n memory locations. That's very natural, isn't it? So the element should be in a contiguous memory location. Now this is a very important point when it comes to array. Whether it is a two-dimensional array, whether it is a one-dimensional array, it has to be contiguous memory location. Once we have a contiguous memory location, how are we going to represent it? Because logically we represent them something like this, isn't it? So we use two methods. We use row major method and column major method. Now let us see what does this mean. What is this column major and row major? First, let us see what is a row major order in representing a two-dimensional array. Now in a row major order, all the first row elements are stored in sequential memory location, and then all the second row elements are stored, and so on. Which means, suppose this is my logical representation of my array, isn't it? Suppose I'm writing it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then what we are going to do? In the memory, we are taking only continuous memory, like a one-dimensional array only. But how are we going to store? It depends. If it's a row major, then we are going to store one row at a time. So how it is going to be? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like this we are going to store. So one row at a time. We are going row wise. That is why it is called as a row major order. Okay. Now base A is the address of the first element. So this I have taught you already in one dimensional array. Base A is nothing but the very first address of the first element of that particular array. It can be a one dimensional array, it can be a two dimensional array. The address of the very first element is called as a base address. Okay. The base address is the first address of the element. The memory address of any element. Suppose we want to find out the address of any element, A of j, I comma j. I can be any row, j can be any row. How can we find out? Now it is easy. We can find out, and for that we use this particular formula. And what is that formula? Location of A of I comma j, this is what we want to find out, is equal to, first we are going to take the base address, which is going to be constant for a given array. Okay. So that address plus W is the number of words per memory location. I had told you last time also in this one dimensional array, if the address is 1002, 1004, something like that, when we subtract this, whatever we are getting, in this case we are getting 2. So the 2 is going to be the number of words per memory location. Okay, so that, and then we are going to multiply n with the I minus the lower bound. The lower bound, we know that it is nothing but the very first. So it is one, if it is 1, 2, 3, this is my lower bound and this is my upper bound. Okay. So first I'm going to subtract this row value with the lower bound, and then I'm going to subtract the column value with the lower bound. So when I do that, when I apply this formula, I'm going to get the location of any given memory element or the data element. Okay. Now next, this I will explain with the example. Okay. So that time it is going to be clear. Next, let us see an example for a row major order. Now see this. This is an array which we have already seen, isn't it? 3 into 3. Now we know that logically we are going to represent it something like this, where this is the 0th column, this is the first column, this is the second column, this is 0th, first and second. Now see how it is represented in the array. So what we are going to do is, first we are going to store the first row. So 2 minus 2, 3, and then 1, 0 minus 3. So 1, 0 minus 3, and then 2, 2, 5, and 2, 2, 5. Okay, so that's what they're saying. First row, second row, third row. So this is how a row major order gets stored in the memory. Right. Next, let us see how a column major order is represented. By now, you would have understood. Likewise, like the row major order, here we are going to store them column wise. Okay, so in a column major order, all the first column elements are stored in sequential memory location, and then all the second column elements are stored, and so on, isn't it? Now, how do we calculate the address of a given element, that is A of ij here? Here also we are going to use base address plus number of words. We already know that how do we find out that number of words per memory location. Then here I am going to directly subtract I with LB, and then see here I am multiplying the column value with j minus lower bound. In the row major order, what did we do? We did n into I minus LB, isn't it? But here what we are doing, we are leaving this as it is. Here we are multiplying the column value with the j minus LB. Okay. Now see here, the two-dimensional array, the logical representation is this. And how do we represent in the column major order? First, we are going to take the very first column. So I'm storing 2, 1, 2, and then I am taking minus 2, 0, 2, that is minus 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, and then I'm taking the last column. Okay, so 3 minus 3, 5. So this is how we are going to represent the array in our memory. Now see this example. In order to calculate the position of a given element in the both row major and also. So suppose we are given an element and we have to find out its exact location, and we will be given some details. Okay, so we have already seen two formulas. One is for the row major order and another one for column major order. So let us see how do we use them. Okay, so we have considered the array with order 25 into m. So this is 25 into m. I already said that, sorry, 25 into 4. I already said that the first value is nothing but the row value and the second value is nothing but the column value. This is always fixed. Okay, so first one is always going to the row and second one is always going to the column. Now with the base value of 2000, now they are given as the base value also. So base value is nothing but the value of the very first data item, right? Now, one word per memory location. What does that mean? One word per memory location is nothing but our value of W, and that is 1, because one word per memory. Now they are saying find the address of A of 12 and 3. Now what does that mean? We have to find out the address of an element which is in the 12th row and 3rd column. Okay, so this is nothing but my I value and this is nothing but my J value, right? In row major order and column major order. So we have to find out for both, right? So first let us write down what all the details we have. So given, we know the base address is 2000, which is given over here. And also we know that m is 25 because it is an array of 25 into 4. So m value is nothing but 25 and n value is nothing but 4. Now lower bound always it is 0. Okay, remember, because our subscript is always starts with 0, whether it is a one-dimensional array or it is a two-dimensional array. LB is always 0. Now word we know it is 1. We got it from this particular sentence. Now I value is 12. The given the data item whose address we have to find, it is in the 12th row and it is in the 3rd column, isn't it? Now let us find out the location. So for the row major order, what is the formula? We know that location is equal to base plus, then we are going to multiply the n value, that is the row value, with I minus LB, and we are going to add it with J minus LB. So what is that? We know that the base value is nothing but 2000, isn't it? So I'm going to write 2000. What is W? W is nothing but 1 here. So 1 into, what is the n value? N value is 4. Okay, so this is an array of 2 into 25 into 4 order, isn't it? That's why n value is 4 into, what is the I value? We got it from here. It is 12 minus 0 and J value is nothing but 3. Okay, and minus 0. So how much we are going to get? 2000 plus 1. 12 minus 0 is 12 and plus 3. Okay, so 4 into 12 is nothing but 48 plus 3. So this is the address what we will get. So this is the address of this particular element in the row major, right? Now what happens in a column major order? So column major order, this is the formula. So now what is the value of base? Base is nothing but 2000 plus word is 1. So I value is 12 minus 0. And what is the m value? M value is nothing but 25. Okay, how did I get 25? Over here, m is equal to 25 into J minus LB, which is J is 3 minus 0. Okay, so this is going to be 2000 plus 1 into 12 plus 25 into 3 is nothing but 75. So when we total it together, we are going to get 2087. So this is what the location of this particular data item in the column major order. So see the difference. The value what we get here and the value what we get here are totally different. This is because here we are going to store the element in the memory row wise, and here we are going to store it column wise, isn't it? That is why the address also varies. So you need to remember these two address. These two formula. I hope this is clear how to find out a location of a given data item. So now let us see a program how to read and print the values in a column major order. Okay, so in here we are going to see a code where we are going to take input from the keyboard and we are going to store it in a column major order array, and also we will see how do we print it, right? So this is my header file, and see the declaration of a two-dimensional array here. The syntax for declaring a two-dimensional array is similar to the 1D, but here we are going to mention data type and then array name, which is similar, but then we are going to have two open close brackets of a square bracket here. Here, this one is going to mention our row and this is the column. So we can either declare it like this, or we can also have data type and directly we can say the number of rows and columns, right? So that is what we have done here. We are saying that it has 5 columns and 5 rows. Okay. So next we have IJRC. So why do we need all this? We are going to see. Okay. Now enter the order. First we are going to take the order. Order is nothing but, like I said, m into n, number of rows and columns. So here we are taking row value is R and C value as C. So R and C are the variables which we are using to represent the row, number of rows and number of columns. Okay. So initially we are asking the user to enter the row value and the column value. Suppose I enter 3 as a row value and column value also 3. Okay. So what's going to happen next? Now we are saying enter the elements. Now we are going to populate our array. So how does a array look like? Okay. If we are saying column major, so then we are going to have R is equal to 3, C is equal to 3, then totally 3 into 3. So we are going to have 9 elements, isn't it? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So now how do we represent, or how do we take the value? So see here, for loop, for I is equal to 0. So I is equal to 0, I is less than C and I plus plus. So initially we are going to take this, and always remember, in order to take value into a two-dimensional array, we need 2 for loops. And why is that? First we are going to take one column, and then we are going to populate all the rows in that, and then we are going to take the next column, and then we are going to populate all the rows in that. For example, if I have to explain in this way, in a column major, first I will take one for loop to represent one column, then I'll take another for loop to move to each row. Okay, and after that I will increment the pointer to here, and again I will start from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, and then again I will use the for loop to increment the pointer, and then again I will start populating it. Similarly, if we have to write a program for a row major, then what I would have done is, the first for loop I would have taken it for a row, and then I would have incremented the for loop for the column. Okay, then I would have incremented this, and then again start from beginning, 1, 2, 3, and then increment this, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, now when we see the code, it's going to be clear. So the R value is 3 and C value is 3. The for loop is for I is equal to 0, I is less than C. So I is going to represent the column value, okay, because it is, we have checked in the condition if it is less than C. And for J is equal to 0, J is less than row, number of rows, and J plus plus, and then what I'm going to do, A of J comma I, okay. So now let us see how does this work. Very first this for loop is going to get executed. So I is going to be 0. I'm checking is 0 is less than 3 because C value is 3 here. This is true. Then what is going to happen? I'm going to next calculate. It is going to come over here, isn't it? So now J is equal to 0. Is J less than 3? This is true. Then what you should do? It is saying take the value for A of J comma I. What is J value? J value is 0. I value is 0. So suppose, let us see the logical representation of this. Okay, so here what is going to happen is, this is 0, 1, 2. Okay, the subscript. This is the row subscript. This is the column subscript. Okay, so this is the 0, 0th value. So whatever I'm entering in the keyboard, suppose I say I enter 10, is going to come and get stored over here. Right. Now next what happens? J gets incremented. Now until and unless this for loop becomes false, my I is not going to get incremented. Right. Until and unless this loop is executed, I am not going to go back to this loop. Only once this is done, then only I am going to move here. So till then I is going to remain as 0. Okay. So now J is getting incremented to 1. I am checking is 1 is less than 3. Yes, it is true. Then again I am going to take the input for A of 1, 0. Remember, I is not changed yet. Okay. So what is I 1, 0? 1,0 is nothing but this one. Okay. So suppose I enter 20. First row. So this is nothing but row value. This is my column value. So first row, 0th column. So 20 is going to come get stored here. So can you see first in a column measure order, first the columns are getting filled, right? Now I is going to get incremented to 2. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes. Then I'm going to take the value for A of 2, 0, isn't it? Suppose I enter 30. 30 is going to come and get stored here. Why? Because we want it in second row. So this is the second row and 0th column. Okay. Now j value gets incremented to 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No, it is not, isn't it? Now the for loops come back to the beginning. So now it is going to increment the I value. Now I value becomes 1. So I is 1 now, and is 1 is less than 3? Yes, this is true. Now again what's going to happen is we are going to come back to this for loop. Again the j value is going to become 0 and we are checking is 0 is less than 3. Yes, this is true. Then we are going to take the value into a of j comma I, isn't it? What's the value of j? It is 0. I value is 1. So what is this? 0th row, first column. 0th row, first column. So over here, suppose I enter the value 40. 40 is going to come and get stored here. Now j is going to get incremented. It's going to become 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes, it is true. So we are going to store the value at a of 1, 1. Suppose I entered 50. A, where is 1, 1? First row, first column. So 50 is going to get stored over here. Next, again j value is going to get incremented by 1. Is 2 is less than 3? This is true. So now what is going to happen? A of 2, 1 is going to get the element which we are entering in the keyboard. So what is the 2, 1? Second row, first column. So 60 is going to come get stored here. So we completed the first column, second column. What is going to happen next? J is going to get incremented 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No, it is not. That's why again we are going to come back to our for loop. Now the I value is going to get incremented and I value is going to become 2 now. Okay. Sorry, let me change the color. So I value is going to become 2 now. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes, it is correct. Okay, so what is going to happen now? We are going to go back to the for loop once again, this particular for loop. Now here also the j value is going to be 0 initially. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes, it is true. Then we are going to take the value of a of 0, 2. Okay. Why? Because I value is 2. 0 through second column. So 70 is going to come and get stored here. Suppose I entered 70. Next j value is going to get increased to 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes. So a of 1, 2 is going to get the value. A of 1, 2 over here. So it is going to come and get stored here. J is going to get incremented once again. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes. So a of 2, 2 is going to get the value, which is a of 2, 2 is over here. Okay. Now again the j value is going to get incremented. It is going to become 3. Is 3 is less than 3? No, it is not, isn't it? Now again, this for loop breaks and we are coming back to the main for loop. Now the I value is going to get incremented to, we already have I is equal to 2. Now I value becomes 3. But is 3 is less than 3? Is it true? It is not, isn't it? Now we are going to come out of this for loop and we have finished entering the values. Okay. The one major thing you have to see here is we are entering the value column wise. So the way the for loops are written is in that way. So we are first taking the column value and then we are taking the row value, isn't it? And also here the order is j, I. So when we do that, we are going to populate the value into the array in this way. I hope this is clear. So now we enter the value. The matrix in column major order is, now we are going to print out, okay? We are going to output the values of the matrix. So how was the matrix? Matrix or two-dimensional array. So I said 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, isn't it? This was 0th, 1st, 2nd, 0th, 1st, 2nd. Now see here, again we are going to use the for loop, but here in the first case it is going to be row. So initially I is going to be 0. Is I is less than 3? Yes. Then what is going to happen? We are going to go for the jth, this particular thing. So j is going to be 0. 0 is less than 3, isn't it? Then we are going to say C out A of I comma j. So I is 0, j is 0. So what is going to happen? First, this is going to get printed 10, and then we are going to increment the j value. J is going to become 1. Is 1 is less than 3? Yes. Then we are going to print A of, it is I comma j. Okay, so I value is 0 and j value is 1. So 0 comma 1. So 0 comma 1 is 40. So we are printing it in this way. Okay, 10, 40, 70, 20, 50, 80. Like that it is going to be printed. So see here, j is going to become 2. 2 is less than 3. Yes. A of I comma j is nothing but 0 comma 2. So what is 0 comma 2? 0 comma 2 is 70. 70 is going to get printed. So see the way we write here. If I write I comma j or j comma I, it is going to make a lot of difference. Okay. So now we are printing in how we are printing? We are printing it in a row major order. Okay. Though the matrix is stored in a column major, now we are printing it row wise. Now what is going to happen next? J is going to get incremented to 3, but 3 is not less than 3. So we are not going to print it. Next, what is going to happen? Next, I value is going to become 1. Okay, 1 is less than 3. So again, we are going back to the for loop. Which for loop? This particular for loop. And then j is going to become 0. 0 is less than 3. So I am printing A of 1 comma 0. So which is this one, 20. Okay. Now again, j value is going to become 1. 1 is less than 3. So I'm printing A of 1 comma 1, which is this one. Okay. So 50. Next, j is going to become 2. 2 is less than 3. So I'm going to print A of 1 comma 2, which is this one. Okay. 80. Next, j is going to become 3. 3 is less than 3, is it? It is not. So what is going to happen? We are going back to the main for loop, this one, outer for loop, and I is going to get incremented to 2. Is 2 is less than 3, this particular condition? Yes, it is, isn't it? So again, j is going to become 0. Is 0 is less than 3? Yes. So we are printing A of 2 comma 0, which is this one. Why 2 comma 0? Second row, first column. Okay, first column. Next, j is going to become 1. 1 is less than 3. So we are printing A of 2 comma 1. Okay, which is nothing but 60. Next, j is going to become 2. Is 2 is less than 3? Yes. So we are printing A of 2 comma 2, which is this one. Now j is going to become 3. 3 is not less than 3. Hence, we are going back to our main for loop. Now I value is going, here it is I value is 2, isn't it? So when we increment it, it is going to become 3. But is 3 is less than 3? It is not. Hence, we are going to come out of this. But we have printed all our data items, isn't it? So this is how we are going to take an element into a two-dimensional array, and we are going to print the element from a two-dimensional array, right? So students, till now we have seen the various operations which we perform on both one-dimensional array and two-dimensional array. What are the algorithms? What data we can store? What are the use of them, etc. Okay. Now we are going to learn what are the application, what are the disadvantages, what are the advantages, etc. Okay. So the main three application of arrays are used to implement other data structures such as heaps, hash tables, queues, stacks, strings, etc. Okay, arrays are very, very, very useful when it comes to data structure. Many of the data structures are implemented using them. Okay, now these stacks, queues, etc. we are going to learn in the further coming sessions. Okay. Arrays are used to implement mathematical vectors and matrices. Just now we saw that how we use two-dimensional array to represent matrices, isn't it? So in order to do matrix multiplication, addition, and so many other applications, we use arrays. Now, many databases include one-dimensional arrays whose elements are records. So what is the meaning of that? We all know that one-dimensional arrays represented something like this, and the one condition is all of them has to be of the same data type. In some databases, now each data items are one record. Okay, like that we use the arrays in order to store the records also in the database system. Now, database is nothing but collection of data, isn't it? So where there also we are going to use this arrays concept. So these are the main applications. Now, what are the advantages of the arrays? Now, advantages is it is used to represent multiple data items of same type by using only single name, isn't it? Suppose I had to declare int instead of declaring I, J, L, M, N. What I can do is I can declare just one array, and I can say that there are 5 elements and directly store all these 5 elements in one. Right. So it is used to represent multiple data items of the same type by using single name. Now, it can be used to implement other data structures like lists, stacks, queues, trees, graphs, etc., in which some we are going to learn. Okay, two-dimensional arrays are used to represent matrices. Now, this is, and again we have been explaining. So, this is a very important use of arrays. Okay, lastly, what is the disadvantages of array? We must know in advance that how many elements are to be stored in array. Okay, so we already said that when we declare int a of I can only have 5 data items in this. Now during the program, I cannot increase this. Okay, that is not possible. So fixed size should be known beforehand, which is a disadvantage in sometimes, because in some program we might want to increase it later. Okay, now array is a static structure. It means that array is of fixed size. The memory which is allocated to array cannot be increased or reduced, right? Now static is nothing but which remains fixed. It is opposite of dynamic. Right. Now, suppose I say 5, a of 5, and I have 5 data items, but then I know that I want 3 more, then it is not possible to increase it. Okay. Similarly, suppose I declared a of 100 and I'm storing only 2 values in this. So what is going to happen to the rest of the 98 memory location? It is going to get allocated, but then it is not going to get used, which is waste of memory, isn't it? So we cannot reduce also. So these are the disadvantages of arrays. Okay, since array is of fixed size, if we allocate more memory than requirement, then the memory space will be wasted, like I said. Okay, if we allocate less memory than requirement, then it will create a problem, obviously, isn't it? Now, the elements of the array are stored in consecutive memory locations. So, insertion and deletions are very difficult and time consuming. Okay, since we need the entire consecutive memory for an array, in doing an insertion or deletion is very difficult because we have to pass through all of them. Right. So, these are the main 4 disadvantages of arrays. So that's all about array. We have learned everything about array and we are ending the array part of the data structure today. Okay, from the next session, we are going to start stacks. I hope this has been helpful in your preparation. Thank you for watching. Take care.